Marvel just had their first Comic Con after a couple of years hiatus this past weekend, and there they announced some big news. First of all, we have a general layout of what the next three phases of Marvel will be. And while that's kind of just news for the next two phases, there is the at least understanding that phase four is going to be ending this November with Black Panther 2 Wakanda Forever. Now, what's the most exciting news for the Comic Con lineup for me specifically was the announcement of Phase 6 ending in not one, but two Avengers movies, both titled Avengers The Kang Dynasty and Avengers Secret Wars. And they will be capping this saga, which is going to be called the Multiverse Saga, in 2025. Now, if you watched my Thor review, you'll know that my feelings about this current phase of Marvel haven't been the most positive. I think that the TV shows have been top tier, if not like, they're not. I don't think that they're the best TV shows ever made, but I think they're all doing a lot of heavy lifting. They're introducing characters and they're spending a lot of time with those characters, giving them depth and giving the world depth. And also, I mean, I think that like WandaVision is one of the greatest things the MCU has created. Which is unfortunate then that the TV shows, and this is what I'm going to talk about right now, haven't really been getting any acknowledgement from the movies. I mean, WandaVision seems like it is directly setting up Doctor Strange 2. And I mean, even going as far as Wanda being the villain of that movie is kind of like, oh, is that actually the follow up to WandaVision that a lot of fans thought? And I don't think it was. And I don't think that they did a good enough job of transitioning us from WandaVision to Doctor Strange. Another thing is these rules of the multiverse. Do we understand how they work? This whole saga being called the Multiverse Saga, I think just really means that they have to focus. They got to stop pushing out this quantity over quality. We have, like 14 more Marvel projects coming out before the end of it in 2025. That's a ton. That's more Marvel products than we had in close to the entire Infinity Saga, which took place over 12 years. So the quantity over quality is kind of meaning that Kevin Feige hasn't, it doesn't feel like he's reining in the ropes of these projects. He's not connecting it into that big master plan that felt so good about the Infinity Saga. For the Infinity Saga, I know that there were some criticisms and people were getting a little tired of the Infinity Stones, which seemed to be the focus of almost three-quarters of those movies. I mean, they were like, quote unquote, the MacGuffin, even though that's not actually how MacGuffins work. But the Infinity Stones being the MacGuffin for so long in the first three phases of Marvel meant that by the time they were all brought together by the big bad that the universe had been setting up, Thanos, we understood what those stones meant and what their powers together could be. It wasn't like, oh, here's some new thing and some new rule. Here's this new multiverse, to be specific, that we don't understand. And therefore we can't follow and get why the stakes are so high and why the drama is, so impactful. How can our heroes survive this? What can they do to master it? It's very important for us to understand the rules in order for us as an audience to know how our characters can react. Um, a good example of this, again, bringing up Doctor Strange 2, is that in this multiverse, they kind of do like this weird jump through the multiverse and it's all wacky and, the visuals are all over the place and there's like one world where they turn into paint. But, America Chavez basically says there's infinite possibility in the multiverse, and Doctor Strange is like the multiverse is a concept we hardly even know anything about. And so if our characters don't understand it, but then the movie also doesn't go as far as to explain it, then who's to say that the audiences aren't going to then come up with some solution that the movie hasn't? And for Doctor Strange 2, that solution is, well, why is there not a universe where Vision and the kids exist without a Wanda? And then why can't our Wanda go to that universe and it just be a happily ever after. And I think that, you can want audiences not to come up with questions like that, but they are going to, because nobody's going to turn their brain off. And the multiverse is this promise of infinite possibility. But with infinite possibility comes audiences having solutions that maybe should have been thought of and should have been discussed so that we know why they're not possible. So, magic systems, rule systems, it's very important for us to understand. Another example is that Loki, and this is a bigger complaint of the Phase 4 in general, Loki seems to be the most critical thing created in Phase 4 towards what they're building towards. I mean, He Who Remains, played by Jonathan Majors, came out in the finale. It was an exceptional performance and was really excited. I was really excited. I was like, oh my God, Kang's here. He's going to be the big bad. I think everybody thought that too. And so now, where is he? Well, he's going to come back in Ant-Man 3. We know that. And he's obviously going to be a major factor in the first of the two Avengers movies. Possibly he's going to be a factor in both Avengers movies. But my issue is that Loki, which sets up variants, sets up the TVA, sets up all these things about multiversal travel, talks about Nexus events. It alludes to Wanda being a Nexus event. Why has that kind of been unacknowledged anywhere else in the universe so far? If Kang's gonna be set up as this big bad thing, how have we not shown him or heard about that any more than just that show and waiting for season 2 or Ant-Man 3? It is crazy to think that you have a character like Kang who can travel through time, who in the comics is like a collector of weapons and artifacts to, make himself stronger. How have we not seen him kind of just popping into the background of all of our movies? I mean, we no longer have the running Stan Lee cameo throughout the Marvel movies. I mean, there's an obvious reason for that. Rest in peace, Stan Lee. You're very missed. But also, why are we not now having Kang be our Stan Lee cameo? It would thematically make sense, and it would be like a little nice nod to, oh, we're building up to that. We are going to be getting Kangs, and we're going to be getting a lot of them, or just one really bad one. But either way, the multiversal war is started by Kangs fighting each other. And the promise at the end of Loki is that it is going to start again. So my whole feelings is that we want that. We should be seeing that, and we should be getting ready. So, I think my hopes and my thoughts are just, we got to reel it in. I want the Marvel to go back to the quality that it was before. I want, our heights in this world to be as high as they were in Endgame. And maybe that's an unrealistic expectation, but once you give me that high, I'm going to be so much more critical of anything less. And so Marvel can't really go back. It can't take us back to phase 1. The universe is huge. It can't be smaller again. And so when things are coming up, like as people on Twitter have just talked about, a giant being growing out of Earth, how is it not being acknowledged? I think we were able to understand why, things weren't being acknowledged in the early era of Marvel. In Thor the Dark World, when Malekith is using the Aether and potentially like setting up to destroy the whole world, we let it slide. I mean, people really criticize that movie, but we let it slide that the larger universe doesn't, get involved. But now, we have Spider-Man No Way Home, where Spider-Man is in New York and he has Doctor Strange helping him. And then we follow it up right away with Doctor Strange. And why if Spider-Man is in the city, is he not there helping Doctor Strange with a monster? I mean, even just like showing up really quickly, isn't that something that Spider-Man would do? When we have giant beings, appearing in the sky above Earth and like literally shifting the clouds, And I'm talking enormous beings that are like messing with gravity. How do we not have like a Sorcerer Supreme or any other characters acknowledging that, oh my God, there's something, pretty much the size of Galactus that just visited Earth? So I think Marvel can start getting more cohesive, although I will say seeing that they have a plan has certainly helped me feel a little bit better about what it is that they are setting up. I still just, maybe my expectations are too high for them, but we'll see what happens. So finally, I'm going to talk about the biggest issue. I think the biggest takeaway of all of this stuff is that with all of these projects coming out, with I don't know the exact count, but pretty much 8 projects a year until 2025 when this saga caps. We are at a point where Marvel is spreading itself so thin, and who's taking the brunt of that are VFX artists. Now, VFX artists are not a unionized labor, and oftentimes a company like Marvel will just, sell out to a bunch of VFX production houses and kind of, make them do whatever they want because they have the money and the power to do it. Now, there's always been kind of a crunch time in different industries, movie making, video game making, where you get close to the deadline and everybody's kind of working crazy amounts of overtime, sometimes without, the benefits of overtime pay to get the product out. But with Marvel, having so many projects, they are pushing VFX artists to like the brink of their capabilities. And I think that this concept of quantity over quality is like it's spreading out. It's going from the storytellers to all the creators. And VFX artists, they don't want to be making stuff that disappoints. They don't want to be making bad products. Nobody does. I mean, you're spending so much time working on something. You don't want it to be criticized by the audience as, oh, that looks bad, which is what is exactly has been happening. And, recently Taika Waititi, director of Thor, was on an interview with Tessa Thompson, and in the interview they criticized the VFX work. And that's just, I don't understand the point of it. I don't understand the work of it. Insiders are coming out saying that Marvel's basically, rewriting the third act, months before release, and that all of these artists had to come in and just, redo all of this work that they've set up. They're talking about how they're not working with cinematographers, so VFX artists are having to create shots that are completely mismatched with the lens of that the film has been produced in. And all this stuff would be fixed if the production or the pre-production was just more focused on what it is that it wants. Movies shouldn't be getting drastically changed right before release. When reshoots normally happen, it's and it does happen in filmmaking. But when it used to happen, when a movie used to get a lot of reshoots, it was normally a bad sign. And because realistically, if you're reshooting a whole movie at the end or a large part of the movie, it means that the reception or the audience response or whatever wasn't good with what you had. And Marvel has been doing a lot of reshoots lately. So I'm just hoping that they can, focus, get better results, and take it easy on the VFX artists because they're trying their best, and it's not their fault that they're being worked so hard. And if you let them work better and if you give them their time, just all the results are going to be better. Well, that's all I got to say about this. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and keep around for more content.